Hi, my name is Matt. It's the first time I've shared my testimony up here. I'll just get right into it, I guess. I'll be honest from the start, right? My testimony is not a dramatic one. I have to admit that even thinking about this and about how I would share with you, it's really tempting to go with I was saved from, gangs and drugs before I ever did them kind of path, right? But I was encouraged to go with what's regular, what's my testimony, and then hope that it'll be encouraging to some of you, all of you, and even just how maybe not so exciting it is, I guess. Like I started off with, I didn't grow up in a gang. I grew up at church. I never sold drugs. I sold candy bars for like missions, right? I didn't pick fights except in Smash Brothers, right? I was saved 8th grade, camp, Sunday school. I don't really remember. That's kind of how, kind of matter-of-fact of life it was. It wasn't, to again underscore, it's not a dramatic one. And again, like I said, it was tempting to dramatize it, right, to make it seem like it was more dramatic. So this is where I put in that story of how I once lit a pile of newspapers in the church parking lot just to watch it burn. It was like around that big, and like I actually freaked out and stomped it out quickly. Good thing that guy found Christ, right? But if a testimony overall is about God's changing of my life, then a lot of the changing of my life, I guess, came after 8th grade, right? After that indeterminate, fateful day when I decided to accept Christ and turn my life over to God's will. Instead of one beautiful about-face story, I have one actually filled maybe more with dragging feet, and rather it's a testimony about God's faithfulness and His love. Because despite being a Christian for so long, I've been in constant rebellion still. Even in that song we sang, right? Just my heart in constant rebellion. I'm quietly prideful. I still seek the fun and pleasures of this life over God at times. I've waffled between loving God deeply and also having real considerations of just walking away and leaving it behind. I've been in my moments of conflicts and even outright refusing at times to follow God's commands. But to this day, God continues to love me and show mercy and forgiveness continually. Some of us have that same story, right? We repent over and over. We say sorry for the same sins. We promise to be better over and over for same things, and sometimes it takes years, and sometimes we go backwards, right? And even in the parable of the prodigal son, right, we sometimes like to focus on how the son turned away and how he spent his inheritance and then dramatically comes back and the father welcomes him with open arms. It's beautiful. We love it. But I think for me personally, I'd like to imagine that it wasn't the last time perhaps that the son wanted to disobey his father, even after having been shown that love, right? I know I wouldn't be for me, but it's also not the last time that the father welcomed him back continually, right? And I think that's what really speaks out to me, that even though I continue to rebel as a Christian, as someone who's saved, right, God still welcomes me back. I think it's just humbling to be able to do that over and over. And I think also too, even my time here at LBCLA, I think is just filled with examples of God's love through the church. Even when Times I've been rebuked, right, to follow God's law out of love, because that's where fulfillment is, right? That's where our lives are for. And at the same time, even being reminded of the gospel, and being reminded to turn to Christ even when I'm at my most brokenhearted, And people here at LBCLA have demonstrated God's love continuously, in the same way that we hear about, right? That God continues to demonstrate that love. And then I think that's really what my testimony is about. It's just my story and my learning too of that God doesn't ever say, I've seen you turn to the world enough times, I'm done, right? There is no, sorry, I ran out of grace, I ran out of inheritance for you. And that's a long lesson that I've really had to learn. Lamentations 3:22-23 says, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They're new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Now, is this the best use of the verse hermeneutically? I think contextually, maybe not. But this is also why I'm excited. There's a hermeneutic class coming up. Andy Kang is teaching it. Y'all should go if you can, right? But at the same time, it's all wrapped up. It's new every morning. It's continuous. It never ceases. And it's God is steadfastly loving. His mercies don't end. He's proved that every day of my life, from my family here at LBCLA, and I guess that's the testimony of God that I wanted to share.